Random House Audio presents The Ape in the Corner Office, Understanding the Office Beast in All of Us, by Richard Conniff. Read for you by Rick Adamson. Yes, it is a goddamn jungle out there. Why acting like an animal comes so easily. In Life of Pi, Jan Martel writes, "Animals in the wild lead lives of compulsion and necessity within an unforgiving social hierarchy in an environment where the supply of fear is high and the supply of food low, and where territory must constantly be defended and parasites forever endured." Sounds like an average day at the office, doesn't it? Compulsion, necessity, the unforgiving social hierarchy, parasites. Oh, and the high supply of fear. That one I could feel butterfly fluttering in my abdomen and ant dancing out on the fringes of my peripheral nervous system. I was standing in front of the top North American distributors for a leading European manufacturer. We had assembled at a resort in the Grand Tetons, in an area still populated by grizzly bears and gray wolves, to which I expected shortly to be thrown. I'd been asked to give a talk about how business people act like animals. I was vaguely nervous. The top baboon for the North American division, a big bluff fellow, sat in the front row, arms folded, with his wife, blonde, witty, appealing, to one side, and his head of sales, short, round, ebullient, on the other. At dinner the night before, I had gotten to know many of these people by first name. I recalled a quote about how business people don't like being compared to bare-ass monkeys. I took a deep breath. Everybody in the room had heard the statistic that humans are roughly 99% genetically identical to chimpanzees. By some estimates, the difference between our two species may be a matter of fewer than 50 genes, out of perhaps 25,000 shared in common. But hardly anyone in the business world seems to have considered what that might mean in our working lives. More often than not, managers endeavor to minimize the human, much less the animal element, and make companies hum like machines. In their own lives, individual workers also tend to treat human nature mainly as something to be overcome, by getting the hair waxed from their torsos or added to their scalps, by dressing for success, by giving at least the appearance of handling stress. Was that the serene brow of Botox I detected on a woman in the first row? It was really too early in my talk for her to be numb with boredom. I asked my audience to think for a moment about how their everyday workplace behavior might be shaped by forces that are less susceptible to change, by the drives and predispositions bequeathed to us by our long evolution first as animals and later as tribal humans, by fear, by anger, by the primordial yearning for social allies and for status. Think of yourself, I suggested, as part of a primate hierarchy unconsciously following 30-million-year-old rules for establishing dominance and submission, for waging combat and maintaining peace. Think about how the alpha, whether chimpanzee or chief executive officer, typically asserts authority with the identical language of posture, stride, lift of chin, directness of gaze, the sharp glower to quell an unruly subordinate. The head guy in the first row started to light up at this, especially when I got to the stuff about using political maneuvering among chimpanzees as a better way to understand boardroom confrontations. He surged out of his seat when the talk was done and launched into what he called the natural history of the boardroom. In the upper echelons at company headquarters, he said, the conference tables are circular rather than rectangular, ostensibly for a round-table atmosphere of equality. Well, bollocks, he said. In fact, there is a distinct hierarchy, and everybody knows where everybody else stands or sits in it. The circular form merely makes the combat a little more open. In a week or two, he said, he'd be heading overseas for a meeting of a committee where the chairman had lately vacated his seat. No one will say anything, but everyone will be looking at that seat and wondering who's going to take it, whether anyone will have the audacity to sit there. "You should sit there," the head of sales ventured. "No, I'd be like the baboon trying to rise 3 steps above his rank. I'd get knocked down." He was a realist, yet keen for the combativeness that would inevitably surface. "I love it," he said, Sometimes when there's a kill about to happen, there's a moment of hesitation when people aren't sure if it's going to happen. By now, my eyes were beginning to widen. And then they get the scent, and they know it's going to be okay, and they know who's going to take the lead and who's going to come in for the kill. It's like the Serengeti, the sales guy agreed. The round table just makes it easier for everybody to see the kill. Jesus, I said. Don't worry, the head guy's wife interjected, taking him gently by the elbow. I'm really in control here. And everybody laughed. Maybe I shouldn't have been surprised that some business people are in fact entirely prepared to liken themselves to bare-ass monkeys. They just want to be dominant, predatory bare-ass monkeys. Animal analogies have always ranked among the favorite cliches of the business world, where 800-pound gorillas run with the big dogs, swim with the sharks, occasionally find themselves up to their asses in alligators, and, if they are not crazy like a fox, can end up caught like a deer in the headlights. When Richard Kinder quit Enron to form his own gas company in 1996, he disguised his dismay with Kenneth Lay's leadership under a standard animalism. If you aren't the lead dog, the scenery never changes. Even the eminently clever satirist Scott Adams ended up likening almost everybody in the working world of his anti-hero Dilbert to a weasel. The truth beneath the cliches is that the lives of animals are not nearly so simple as we used to think, nor are the lives of working people so complex as we like to believe. Moreover, the two have a lot in common, and not just in the obvious ways. For instance, aggressive business types often employ animal analogies because they mistake them for the art of war by other means. The idea of animal troops ruled by demonic males dishing out nature red in tooth and claw appeals to a certain view of business life. It really is a goddamn jungle out there. And don't get me wrong, this is a very entertaining view. Like my North American division chief, we all love a good brawl, if only from a safe distance. But it's also a narrow, misleading point of view. Here's the sort of surprising thing we can learn from a more careful look at the animal world. Even chimps spend only about 5% of their day in aggressive encounters. By contrast, they devote as much as 20% of the working day to grooming family, friends, and even subordinates. When they fight with rivals in the troop, they often go well out of their way, after the dust settles, to kiss and make up. And why should working people care how chimpanzees resolve their conflicts? Because our social behaviors and theirs evolved from the same ancestors and still follow many of the same rules. Even in our everyday working lives, human bosses, like alpha chimps, sometimes drive their underlings beyond any reasonable limits. They might do better in life and in business if they understood just how far even a dumb ape will go to achieve harmony in the aftermath of conflict. Shining an evolutionary light on the workplace isn't just a clever way to rationalize bad behavior or to find simple-minded justifications for maintaining the status quo. It is a useful approach to survival in the workplace. Moreover, it's an approach that applies to any workplace, whether the workers happen to be greeting customers at a Walmart in Los Angeles, or hanging Warhols at the Tate Modern in London, or stamping out toasters at a hire company plant in Qingdao, China. Understanding evolutionary propensities can help us manage conflict, build useful alliances, avoid backstabbings, survive boardroom assassination attempts, and understand the unspoken emotions revealed by the facial expressions of the people around us. It can at times help companies manage the workplace to accommodate things people do naturally. For instance, W.L. Gore & Company, maker of Gore-Tex, has chosen to keep its plants and offices at what feels like a comfortable human scale, under 200 employees. This is close to the maximum size of the tribal clans in which human society evolved, and some biologists say our brains are actually built to operate on this social scale. It isn't what most companies mean when they talk about right-sizing, but Gore employees say it feels like the right size for working together effectively. Ignoring evolutionary and biological propensities, on the other hand, often proves disastrous.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?